To the Relevant Recruiter Show. Today we've got another great guest. Will McGee is joining me. Will is the founder of Recruiting with Dynamite, and if you guys have been paying attention, he's been creating a lot of noise here on LinkedIn with some awesome content, and he's got some killer things that we're going to talk about today, which is really shifting away from some of the traditional models. And he's going to introduce us to a new model focused a little bit more on monthly recurring revenue. But Recruiting with Dynamite is on a mission to help great recruiters get in front of the right candidates and clients more often. A lot of recruiters' success is based on timing. However, many recruiters struggle to craft attention-grabbing messages, making their presence known and staying in front of their top prospects. So, Will, I'm fired up, man. I've been following you for a while. Can't wait to dig in and pick your brain here and learn something today. Thanks for joining me, man.
Yeah, man. Happy to be here, trying to bring that energy into Wednesday. Let's go, guys. Where's everybody coming from right now? I know we have a pretty good list of people here. I'm just curious,
Yep.
like, can we get a hand raise of where we're seeing this audience come out of?
Yep, got some people coming in. So Edwin's here, Amber Penrose, Joy. Thank you guys for being here.
Yeah, Amber.
Give us some likes, some loves. Tap in. Let us know where you're from. As I go through this interview with Will, please ask your questions. I will get to them as it makes sense. If I can keep my brain focused throughout this, that's the main goal. So, Will, let's just start, man. Give me a little background. Chicago, Denver, St. Pete, Florida, Texas. There we go. New Mexico. We're all over Bay Area. Boise. Brandon, what's up?
Oh,
Michigan, Dalton, Georgia, Bay Area, DC, Toronto. Love it. I'm in Boise, Idaho myself. Will, where are you at?
I'm in Huntington Beach, man. We're just enjoying this beautiful weather. We got rained on all week. I'm finally getting some sun. I need to go walk my dog. He's been cooped up. He's all smelly now because every time we wake up, let him go to the bathroom, it's just like, just rain. And I'm not used to this, man. I'm not used to this weather. I don't like it. I don't like it at all.
Well, we're in between snowstorms, rainstorms, and then I'm flying to the Bay Area to go watch the Niners play, and it's supposed to be 70 degrees for the game. So
yeah, you guys pulled off a crazy win last week. So congratulations to you, man. Like, it's gonna be fun. That's exciting. Are you gonna come out to Vegas for the Super Bowl or what?
We're just taking it 1 week at a time right now. 1 week at a time.
All right.
But we'll see what happens.
Hey, it's not like it's so super far from both of us right now at this point.
Yeah. It's a little shot.
Yeah,
get there in a matter of minutes. So
yeah,
tell me, man. Let's dig into this a little bit. Give me a little bit of background. How did you get into recruiting? Tell me about your recruiting business. Give me a little bit of a summary of up until where we're at now.
Yeah, ever since I was a little boy, I always knew I was going to be a recruiter. No, I'm just kidding. Nobody looks at recruiting and is like, yes, I want to be a recruiter. I was in sales. I specifically started in real estate, and like my mom was a broker, my dad was an insurance agent. Both were entrepreneurial, so naturally fell into sales. I remember when I got into recruiting, like right before I got into recruiting, I was like, I don't want to do sales anymore. I want to do operations. I want to like do more business stuff. And then I fell into recruiting, and I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'm going to be in sales for a little bit longer. But I think the thing I loved about recruiting was the fact that like it was this, 2-person cycle where you're like really a middleman. You're helping people. Like, obviously we all want to make money. Like, that is a big part of what I do. I mean, I got to give it to Don Zoo and Grace. They really kind of literally put it in the forefront. Like, anybody who says that they're in recruiting to like, for the betterment to help people, like, yeah, that might be a caveat to it all, but let's be real. Like, at the end of the day, we want to make some money, and I do enjoy making money. So I love that. And I think it's like one of the best industries that we were like blessed to have a really awesome earning potential while at the same time helping people and building companies and making a pivotal change. So got into recruiting through cybercoders, met this girl on the train from Orange County to downtown LA, working a suit and tie job, selling co-location, which is space power cooling in real estate, essentially, for a company called CoreSite. I did not like the work. It wasn't my thing, just because it's a little stuffy, too kind of, corporate, type of a job. It's a little, in my opinion, it's a little boring. You're selling, at the time, you're selling like wire connections to AWS. Now, at the end of the day, massive earning potential, huge earning potential, right? But it just wasn't my thing. And I was a top biller there and on the account management team. And I just remember we were putting in this a new policy that I just wasn't really excited about, and I like was complaining about it the entire time. I was like, I can't sell this. And my boss at the time goes, "Well, then you should probably quit." And I was like, "Okay, I guess I'm quitting." So so I quit, and the girl I was like became friends with on this train, she goes, "My boyfriend is a recruiter at Cybercoders, and you should talk to him." And I was like, "Oh, okay. I'll see what's up." And I was like, "It's better than selling cheesecakes," which is what I did before. I joined. I sold a lot of things. I've sold quite a bit. So I was selling cheesecakes at Costco before I joined Console. Or not Console. Coresight. And and my boss was like, "You need to stop that right now." And and so I was like, "I don't want to go back to selling cheesecakes. I don't want to go back to this corporate stuffiness." And um, I was like, I'll check it out, and got into cybercoders. Had an amazing boss. My boss was still one of my best friends. He taught me so much, and he gave me such a great, uplifting place to work. Shout out to Jason Kuna. Kuna brought me in and just put me under his wing. And in my first year, I had sold, like, at that point I was so broke I had to sell my car. I was desperately trying to scavenge up cash to just pay rent. And I made it a commitment to myself that I was going to be the best at this job I could possibly be, and I wasn't going to jump, and I was going to really focus on it. So I did that. And the first year, I was rookie of the quarter like twice, I think, or I can't remember, so long ago. And was in the top 10 of a 120 person recruiting company. I built something like 475 my first year, and I just like had earned so much money for a little 24-year-old straight out of college, like just being like, I'm rocking it right now. Like
Yeah.
I'm high six figures. Let's go. Like we're doing
Yep.
some stuff, right? And I and then I crapped the bed year two. Like I thought I was the hottest shit in the world. I was the best thing that hit recruiting. And I just like really, in all layman terms, shit the bed. And from that point, I found my mentors. I just like went out and I was like, I need to change this thing. And my mentor, Neethu Gulati, she's amazing, love her to death. Um, Basically put me under her wing and showed me her thing. She was $1 million biller, consistent top number one biller at Cybercoders year after year. She just gave me like the real deal about recruiting and like really making it a consistent business. And I just kept doing it from that point. So yeah, and that's the recruiting story.
Yep.
And
There you go.
the rest is history.
Yep. So did you eventually start your own, or did you come out?
Yeah, so I went to I kind of saw the writing on the wall for me at Cybercoders. It was a
Mhm.
great place to learn. It was a great place to grow, great earning potential at the time. I just wasn't aligned with kind of like the transactional pieces of it, because Cybercoders in reality is a sales organization. It's not, I wouldn't say it's like, at least at the time, I don't know about it today, it wasn't like a genuine recruiting organization. It was, hey, like get on the phones, dial, get as many clients as you possibly can, and then like we've got all these candidates, just start placing them. And that was good. I made a lot of money doing that, and I was looking for something a little bit more challenging. I got a leadership role there. Just wasn't. I just couldn't vibe with. I just wasn't vibing with what I wanted to do,
Right.
which is that deeper work. So I found a company called Console. Shout out to Mark Cohen. And Mark introduced me to kind of this newer way of doing it. He had brought in this major client And he had just started up the Santa Monica office out there. And his whole purpose was just kind of doing things differently. Like we worked on not necessarily a retainer, but like really kind of, he kind of opened my eyes to this productization piece.
Right.
And at the time, like I was so interested in that and like his approach that I lined it up with that. And he brought me in with as a director of business development there. Um, you know, things just didn't line up as I was hoping. And I think like there was just some missed opportunities for us as like creating brand and stuff like that. And I think what we were trying to align just didn't match at the end of the day. Mark and I are still great friends. We still talk. We just spoke to him the other day. Great person, great guy, fantastic leader. And at the end of the day, we parted ways, and I ended up I started my own thing with Tima, and Tima was like this franchise model, and Tima was really cool because it kind of gave me the stepping stones of starting my own business while franchising this like back office system that allowed me to tap into other resources and partnering with other recruiters to help me do a more half or split desk deal versus being a completely full desk person. I'm always going to be full desk. I always will be full desk. But it is nice to have half desk support. So brought in a lot of clients. First year hit our President's Club numbers, and just got this like really awesome opportunity to kind of relax a little bit that first year. So I really kind of just focused on like billing what I needed and trying to create a better lifestyle for myself. And the second year just knocked it out of the park. I think we did a total of like 600 or 700K in billing. Splits was 50 or 60% of my revenue. And we closed out on my own personal billing. At that point was like 300K, but total cash was about 600, something like that. And had a short stint, won't mention the other one, with another company because they convinced me to come in, bring in this kind of, they're promising to be something different. Ended up being like kind of a cybercoders 2.0. That might give it away. And then walked away from that really quick. That's why they're not on my LinkedIn. Right. And I said, screw it, I'm just going to do my own thing at this point. So that started A-Talent. A-Talent was a testing bed for a lot of the stuff that we're building today through Recruitment Dynamite. A-Talent, we crushed it, loved it, had a great time, just my wife and I. Brought on a couple partners that were like, kind of in this kind of a little bit of a team model, but they were separate businesses and entities, and really just defined these like really cool productized services and like really created these like MRR, ARR type of models. Sourcing, RPO, fractional, like all sorts of stuff. We just were testing. We're like, screw it, we're gonna play around, we're gonna have some fun and see what works. And
I love that. Crushed. Being playful in business is so underrated, man.
Yeah, I mean, if I can't play, I just don't have fun. And if I'm not having fun, then I just don't want to do it. Like it's just that it's my ADHD. I'm like super neurodivergent. I'm like I have to have this like kind of intoxicating feel of just wanting to learn stuff. So yeah, we played around, and then I got pulled away a lot from my perspective, which was like this playful mentality. And I got stuck in a place where it became a little too serious, and it pulled away from like our core vision really quick, or not really quick, but towards the end. And for all intents and purposes, I should have been the happiest recruiter on the planet. We had just done like 900K in billing. It was March of 2022. We just our baby just dropped. She was just turning about to be a year. And I just like, I remember like we had so much pipeline, and I looked at Christina and I was like, I see what's going to happen. And there is going to be a big turn at the end of this year. And I don't know if I want to be in this position again, going after it. And we have the cash flow, but I don't even know if I want to continue down this production life cycle. And I really just enjoyed helping other recruiters, because we had created this thing called Collective Rec. We were helping other recruiters. We're bringing this community together, and it was awesome. and I couldn't focus on it. And like, that was the part that I was like, I want to get back to that.
Right.
And Christina said, let's do it. Let's do recruiting with dynamite. And it wasn't recruiting with dynamite, but let's go back to that. And for the next 6 months, we kind of took a break, coasted, closed a bunch of deals with our premium clients. We still run a talent, like it's still there, but it's pretty much sunsetted. We don't do any new outbound. And it's only for our platinum clients, anybody who comes back to us essentially. So, that's the beginnings of recruiting with dynamite. That's kind of how it started. It was like, I just don't know if I want to do this anymore. And she was like, just, if you're not getting fulfilled, you're not going to enjoy it and you're going to hate it. And it started to become that, right? Like, and now I'm like back to being fulfilled again. So it's great.
Love it. Love it. So we've got a ton of people with us live. We've got over 70 people with us live right now. So this topic, I think, is one that people want to hear about. If you can go in the comments and let me know if you're excited about what we're about to share. So now we're going to get into contingency retained, these different models, these playful models that Will has come up with. So let's just start with the contingency and retained. Will, like, what do you think are some of the key limitations of those traditional, models that are out there?
Yeah. I just think that the recruiting world is evolving. Like, that's just, we haven't changed. We haven't changed. And in fact, we haven't changed and we've gotten lazy. Like, those two things just have completely killed our industry. We're super transactional. All we care about is, I mean, not talking about everybody, obviously, don't cancel me, but recruiters in general, in the recruiting agency world is super transactional. It's like, here's a resume, I deserve to get paid 30%. And it's like, no, you don't. No, you don't. And especially when you're a startup recruiting company or a lifestyle recruiting company, like, why? Like, let's go back to, like, let's step back, right? Why was it 20 or 30% agreements in the first place? In the beginning, it was that because salaries were like, even high salary roles, it made sense, right? You had to go out and do these things, but on top of that, the resources that you had to pay for, the creativity you had to have were so great that the margins didn't make sense if it wasn't 20 or 30%. So data wasn't available. You didn't have LinkedIn. You didn't have Apollo. You didn't have all these data sources that you could actually use. So what did you have to do to go build a business? You had to set up events and go to these like crazy things. You had to door knock, drop coffee off. Like, I remember right before I joined, I remember kind of researching recruiting and like understanding the way that things were done was like, you would call into Microsoft, for example, and be like, who's the senior person at this place? And then you'd have to write down and create these org charts, like create org charts of.
Could you imagine trying to call into Microsoft right now and have that conversation?
Exactly, right?
Can you give me the senior person?
Yeah. So you had to do all this stuff just to get an idea of what a company was like, and then who was in there, what they were doing, and then you had to meet these people, and it was so time consuming. So you would do maybe 2-3 deals every quarter, right? It wasn't anything crazy. You had to fax a resume, right? Mail a resume in, right? And so it's like, those were crazy things that you had to do. And it made sense. And so what happened was technology came in. We have databases now. Oh, okay, great. I have this database. So now it was like, I have this resource of 14 million candidates. That was our big sell at Cybercoders. 14 million candidates. So we could search and utilize like all the search criteria to find out who the best candidate is for you and who's actually interviewing. And our program was really awesome because it would like literally push. It was like really revolutionary. It pushed all these candidates to the top who were interviewing active based on your job search criteria and all this stuff. And so you had this like really easy to use tool that allowed us to go to market fast and be more transactional. So again, big infrastructure, cost of doing business was high. Having that level of a database was really expensive, and you had to post for jobs. Like, so job boards were really expensive. And so LinkedIn came in and said, okay, well, we've got job boards and connection and all this other stuff. And we got Recruiter. Now Recruiter's super expensive, right? All this stuff is there, right? So super expensive overhead just to get the business job. Now data is free, man. Like, You don't need Recruiter. I never suggest Recruiter. I freaking hate Recruiter. I think it's the worst product for recruiters on an agency level that could possibly exist. Instead, I would shoot Sales Navigator, $99, Apollo, Clay, Better Leap. Better Leap, shout out to Better Leap. I think they're great. People GPT. There's some really great tools out there that can allow you to do all the search capability that you absolutely need for like a few $100 a month. So the role of recruiting, the time commitment are now shrunk. So do you deserve a 20% fee because you can search better than something? No, come on. You don't deserve a 20% fee. You deserve a 20% fee if you earn it. You earn it by delivering. You earn it by creating really great solutions. You earn it not by being a transactional person, but by being a relationship driven person. You earn it by having a great sales process. And so like we're evolving, and now like there's so many options for like companies to actually utilize that it doesn't make sense for them to do these 20% fees anymore. And so contingency and standard like recruiting models, even retained, doesn't sound good to them because they have so many options. And we saw this like crazy uptick in 2021 and 2022 of recruiters being the most in-demand role in the country. Recruiters getting paid $160,000 to work internally, like, which is insane to me. And not saying that they didn't deserve it. They were some of the best recruiters in agency life, now internal. So they actually saw what talent looks like on the talent side. And they were creative. They were doing all this stuff. They were, creating campaigns. They were building out LinkedIn platforms. They were doing all this video stuff. And like, they had all these resources. And so now they see that, right? And they hired all these teams. And then they go, wow, that was really worth the spend, but we can't hold them anymore. So we got to fire all these people. So then they have this negative press release, right? Negative press. We fired half of our entire recruiting staff, and everybody's on the market now. And just like home prices in Palm Springs right now, they just started tanking, right? Like all the salaries started tanking. Everybody's freaking out, and now there's so many options that are cheap, inexpensive, new stuff that's coming in as complementary products, products like Deal, right? Compliance and HR platforms and stuff, all sorts of stuff that's coming out, right? AI enters the world. Oh, shit. No, now we got AI. So it's all there, so many options. So you have a massive uptick in competition, and companies just don't want the transactional piece anymore. They want more value if they're going to spend $30,000 on something. It's just what it is. So
what does a good model look like then?
One that adds value beyond the transaction of a placement. At the end of the day, yes, we find people. That's our job. But we so focus so much on the outcome of the placement versus the outcome of what the client's going to get. Now, here's the deal. Nobody goes into nobody at a company, your hiring manager, your executive, nobody, not a single person, not one person is like, I'm excited about hiring people today. I want to hire everyone and I want to use recruiters. Like nobody's thinking that.
Right.
So hiring objectives are a necessity, right? It's a necessity for building. And they're trying to get to an ultimate outcome. The mechanism to get to that outcome is a person who's skilled at that and can fill the gap that's getting them from where they are to where they want to be, right? Recruiters are there to help lower the friction to get that gap filled with the right person for the right seat. And so that's really the big focus of like what you should be looking at. Because at the end of the day, every recruiting process has its own. Every recruiting process has three similarities. It's this foundational discovery piece, right? You're understanding, you're intaking, even before the role has been kind of defined. Then there's the action-oriented part, which is you now understand like the process, people who are going to be there. Now we have this target list. We're going to go put them into action. We're going to reach out to them. We're going to source. We're going to interview. We're going to put them into playbook. And then it's like this last part, which is like Now we're closing and onboarding them, right? So how do we get them to negotiate a great, fee or a great salary or a great hourly or whatever it is to get them on board, close them up, and then onboard them for great success, right? And ensure that they stick, right? So every recruiting process has that. Now, if you're a great recruiter, you probably figured out some sort of like thing that makes you special or makes your program special, or you think that would make a recruiting process special for your clients that gets a very consistent result, right? That's going to ultimately land them the best talent for the right role or whatever it might be in your niche, or I should say in the focus group that you're focusing on, because we'll talk about niches later, which we can go into. But in the focus group that you're going after, that one avatar that you're going after, and how you serve them and what they're going to be looking for, whether that be like millennial leaders, right? For example, in the sales organization, they might want to get approached a certain way. They might be attracted to a role because of a certain thing. And you have those things. And so you need to create your unique processes, or I should say, not processes. Nobody cares about your process. You should be creating your unique program that allows you to say, this is how we do it. And or actually audit even your client and say, are you doing this? Because this is why it works. Like if you're not doing this, this is like a little strange for you, kind of thing. Make them understand the gap. The gap is the big part of where they're at to where they want to be, and like how far away they are from that. And you can create that gap. If you can actually sell on that gap, then you have a program and a product that aligns really well with your target market, right?
You mean problem solution selling?
Oh no, I mean like that's just too old school, man. Yeah, we're not talking about problem solution selling.
Man.
But gap selling is what we were talking
about. Yeah, this is good stuff. For those of you that are listening with us, make sure you're tapping those buttons if you're enjoying what Will is saying. Throw one of those insightful comments, as he's dropping a lot of value here. I know that we're going long. As you guys haven't noticed, Will's on fire right now. We're going to keep diving in. So if you aren't able to watch this full interview, it's available on my YouTube channel, The Relevant Recruiter Show, or my YouTube channel is Donnie Gupton. And it's also on podcast, iTunes, Spotify, etc. Under the Relevant.
Yeah, I just want to give you guys the business. I want to give you the true value. Like at the end of the day, if you walk away from this and don't have value, then please just cancel me. Like just stop following.
All right, so we're going to keep going, but if you do have to jump, you will be able to watch this full or listen to this full on those channels there. So let's talk about the process now, Will. I mean, could you walk us through the process of developing an offer that really is going to set us apart, from the next recruiting agency?
Yeah, we have a 9-step program that's based in 3 phases, right? And you all know how to go to market. Or you guys assume you know how to go to market, I should say. And a lot of people are kind of hurting right now because they just skip certain parts of this process. But I think it's really important that you go through each one of them. The first part of that process is really understanding and clarifying your purpose in the market, right? Who you are, what's your vision, what's your mission, essentially, right? A lot of people skip this step, especially when they go out on their own, because they think, oh, okay, like I just start my business and go for it. And they don't have a really clear definition of like what kind of person or brand. And that's a lot of the brand building. If you don't get that part right, in that purpose, we call it the purpose pulse. If you don't get that part right, nothing matters. Because you'll just constantly be in the situation where you're not clear on what your goals are. Your companies that you work with will never understand who you are. They're not clear about who you are. Your candidates don't know exactly what you're about and who you're about and like how you can serve them. So there's no clarity there. And so really we want to identify get really clear about what you do, how you do things, right? And everything derives from that, right?
Yeah.
I forget the author's name. There's a company or a book's called Traction. Traction talks about how, he talks about the core focus. If you don't get your core focus, we call it purpose pulse. Oh, it's back there. Yeah. See?
Yeah.
Great minds, man. Great
Yeah,
minds.
there you
You
go.
don't have
There
your
you go.
core focused right, nothing aligns, right? And he has this quote that he says that if you can get everybody in your organization going after the same goal, the same vision, at the same time, rowing at the same space, there's not a single market, there's not a single environment, a time, competition that can beat you. And I truly believe that, right? And got to get really clear on your focus. The second part is understanding that gap or what you actually do to serve your clients or your target. And so one of the things that I was going to say was like the niche part is that where people get really messed up, and we've seen it in 2023 and 2024, is people too much focus their identity on their niche and what they think is their niche, I should say. They think their niche is the titles or the roles that they go after, the industry that they're targeting, the location that they work in, and what we would call the fill principle: function, industry, location. And that is a part of it, right? Like that's just your
Mhm.
fill, right? And that's the traditional recruiting model. If you actually instead change your perspective from niche in a customer centric perspective or client centric perspective and move it into more of a problem centric perspective, you can actually solve more problems with a greater reach. And your niche, your target audience, if that fails, you can always move to the next one. And with ease, because it's a marketing conversation now, not a process or product or service conversation anymore. It's not about the candidates you have, it's about the program you built. And you can actually move really quickly if you understand that. And what we have to realize is that problem centric part, or outcome centric, I should say, part is really interesting, because if you look at where the ultimate goal or that your clients are looking to get to that you can help solve, um, you can have this thing where you can start talking in currencies. And so what a currency is, just as an explanation really quick, not like fiat, but the exchange in value that you're giving them for this knowledge or this service or an increase in revenue as a very specific piece, right?
Right.
So you see this right now with like people like Cole Gordon as an example, right? And closers.io. Cole, he's a recruiting company at the end of the day. He's a he basically helps sales teams for small to medium sized businesses be built up with high ticket salespeople like you and I, essentially.
Right.
And he does that by coaching the person on how to create a sales process, and then places salespeople for them, right? And so he doesn't even say recruiting when he talks about it. He just says, I help build up sales teams and get you to like consistent 50K revenue months, like pretty standard, right? And then he puts you through the mechanism, which is his recruiting program or his coaching program that ultimately leads to his recruiting cycle. And Cole's doing like 32 million a year right now, and he's like one of the fastest growing recruiting companies in the country. And you would never know that he's a recruiting company. And
Right.
so that's the currency part. Then you have to really understand your ideal customer profile. Like, who are you targeting? One avatar, one problem, one solution, right? So really get clear and do that over and over and over and over again. And that's the part that people think that is the niche, and that's not.
Right.
It's just your target, right? And so that's your target. If you're targeting down that path, you can get really good and start solving those problems really quickly. And you have to map that out. Who's in the market for this, and then be able to map out what symptoms that they have that you can search. We talk about this a lot in Lavender, with the Lavender interview. If you guys want to watch that, go to my actually, you have to be a part of my community. Come join my community. I'll get you in. But anyway,
There'll be a
so
link for this. You can join.
yeah, there'll be a link. I'll send it up. So I had Will Allred on. Shout out to Lavender. Will Allred, love the guy. He comes on and he basically says, like, at the end of the day, you have to have something that you can search and determine, like, that you're saying, like, why I'm reaching out to. It's not just, hey, I've got this candidate. Hey, you got this job posting. Right. Like, everybody does that. Like, you're just not standing out if you do that. So you have to have something that's like an observation of a symptom Like in the case of an accounting company, right? Or sorry, a company that needs an accountant, if your specific targets are accountants. Okay, well, hey, like I noticed you guys are filing, like you're about to go public, or you're positioned really well to go public. Have you thought about going public, right? Or I noticed your accounting team is kind of short on a control or on controllers or whatever it might be. And like, or how are you guys handling your financial, your F&A and or whatever it might be, right? And so now you have an observation point that you can actually trigger, and have a deeper, open conversation. And so that leads to your offers, right?
Right.
Creating a really great offer. I'm not going to go into all that. That's an easy one. I'm just going to go and skip through the rest, which is offer, creating a great offer, creating a blueprint for what you actually do and how you solve these things. And then ultimately creating this product roadmap or program roadmap. So that way you can sell against it. The selling against this product or your program is the key part. I have people in my program right now who are making 30, 50K a month on MRR stuff because before even sending a candidate, they've already lined this up. I have one of my clients right now is about to sign a 5K deal a month. It's his first one. I'm really excited about it. We need to line up some stuff, right? But he's about to do 5K a month just for being kind of this like service, right? You can do an audit of their program, of their recruiting program. Hey, like I'm coming in, I'm gonna before I even do. And so like I think there's somebody in the comments that said I don't do a contingency anymore. I only do retain. Get that out of your head, because it's the reality is that it's not you don't want to do contingency. You just don't want to do work that's not going to get paid. Like that's the real reality, right? So if I can add service and I can create value and I can create this gap of like, oh shit, like I could do this audit for you for 10, 15 grand because these other consultancies are also doing this for them, right? And that's before I even send you a candidate. Like, come on, man. Like now you've got something really, really amazing there, right? And so, and not saying that the audit thing is the one thing you do. You could do anything from marketing. You could do anything from video editing, whatever your special superpower is or whatever you think is really awesome, right? Like whatever part of that program. And then the last part is just going to market, right? Going to market, understanding like how you're going to go to market with your product, get the messaging out, do all that stuff. And then convert. How do you sell against it? How do you get people involved and create that gap? And then lastly, is nurture it. And that's our program. That's what we build. And so we help you build all those things. So
right. Jay just asked us a good question. Love both of you, but are we going to get the actual roadmap that shows us how to discover how top recruiters are building and abandoning old contingency? Basically what our title is.
Yeah. I mean, did I not just give that to you? I think I gave most of that to you, right? So I could get into.
Hey, let me ask you this: what specifically do you want us to dig into beyond what Will just shared there?
Yeah.
And while we're waiting for Jay's response, for those of you that are listening, make sure go and keep on digging in. Let's ask some questions. We've got about another good 20 minutes on here if we keep on going. So. Yeah, great question, Jay. Appreciate that. While Jay's asking, walking us, through that, is there anything else you want to kind of close up about that, the process and the offer and things like that?
No, I think that's a really kind of like a good overview of like understanding what that looks like, right? So like I had mentioned, and maybe to answer more clearly to what Jay's asking, is how do you ditch it, right? How do you ditch contingency and recruit and retained and all this other stuff? And at the end of the day, it's a little bit more on the shock value, right? The ditching thing, like you're not going to, like, I don't believe in necessarily completely giving up contingency or completely giving up retained. I'm saying that there's an opportunity for you to have less reliance on it. And some companies are taking that to the next level and fully ditching it, right? With fractional work, right? Shout out to Justin Wade, right? Justin at Flawless and even Job Mobs is a completely fractional recruiting company and RPO service. Now, you might be like, oh, well, RPO is not recruiting. Fractional is not recruiting. It is freaking recruiting, right? At the end of the day, they're doing the same exact thing you're doing, except for they're getting paid for it on an hourly or project basis. So it's the same exact situation. And I think people who like kind of like have this like this elevated view of what you do. I mean, like you're a salesperson, right? At the end of the day, and you're a recruiter, and we're all doing the same exact thing. And you might have your special spin on it. You might have your network, you might have your whatever, your community, whatever you do, like that's the point. Like that's the thing that you're creating the gap on, and understanding like what exactly you do. So to answer that question in a more direct way is, how do you do it? Like you create programs, and you create the system that allows you to sell against the problem or the currency. So you're selling either you're selling to get to a specific outcome, and you're reducing the friction. I'm going to try and do this slow because I don't want people to be like, I don't know what you mean. So let me start over. So you got this program. Each part of your program should have its own phase, and each of those phases should have a system that allows people to understand why you go through that phase, because it's ultimately going to lead to a specific outcome, right? So this specific outcome that this client or your ideal customer wants, what we call a keystone client, some people call it lighthouse, avatar, ICP, whatever. What they want on a common level is to get more revenue, market share, or margin, right? One of those three things. Your candidates want more health, wealth, and relationships. Those are the three main things, like three main things in everything. So at the end of the day, you try to get them to that ideal place by putting them through this program or this system and reducing the friction and the time to get there as fast as possible with the highest level of success. So if you can learn to do that on each level of your system, you can now have a program or product that you could sell before you ever go contingency, before you ever go retained, before you ever go fractional, before any of that stuff. And people will buy it. And that's sometimes sourcing solutions. Sometimes that's fractional work. Sometimes that's, whatever, RPO service you're talking about. But, sometimes if you're a really good video editor and you like doing video content, then you can do that. If you're an employer brand person, that could be it too. Whatever it might be, whatever your secret sauce is, that's how you do it.
Right. So, but ultimately this starts with like identifying problems within organizations that you can solve, and then build your, as you're calling it, program to solve that problem. And there might be multiple phases of your program that can help solve different phases of their problem.
That's exactly it. So, and that's why I think like people, when they say productization, they get it wrong. They get productization wrong because they're thinking like, oh, I've got to create something. And there's a lot of things you can do to productize, right? Tech can be productized, right? If you have a proprietary technology software that you can integrate, you maybe built out a system that you can showcase, right? That's a product that you can say, this is part of our system. This is a part of our program, right? And you get access to this. It might be a portal, right? So there's tech, right? There's coaching, right? We just mentioned Cole Gordon. Cole Gordon's program is the coaching part. Hey, I need to get you foundationally correct before you can actually sell a salesperson into your program, and they're going to actually be set up properly. So before we even get you to salespeople, we need to understand. You need to get really aligned on the sales program, because we're gonna infiltrate you with that person. So it could be coaching. It could be courses. It could be so many things. I think there's like a total of like 6 ways you can productize or something like that. But I think when people think about productization in their recruiting program, I think they think too kind of, it can get a little convoluted. It can get a little like out there, or they're just renaming retainer. They're just renaming RPO. And I think that's the part that we need to really like clarify. Don't just rename retainer, right?
Well, your packaging and offer, is the way I view it. Like, you're just saying, hey, yeah. So Jay's got some good follow-up questions, and so does Thomas. So Thomas's question is, how do you build for this new concept? And then Jay's follow-ups were, so basically saying it should become a marketing company. Are you saying you should try to get a monthly retainer on things outside of recruiting? You mentioned video editing.
I'm not saying you should do anything. I'm saying that at the end of the day, I'm not saying you should be a marketing company. I'm not saying that you should do monthly retainers. I'm saying that your program should be something that's palpable, digestible, easy for people to understand, that creates a gap that is beyond just the transaction of sending a resume and placing a candidate, because they have that. They have that already. They don't need any more of that, right? Now, if you are going to do MPC marketing, which is like, hey, I've got this really great candidate against this competitive company to this competitive role, that's fine too. Even still, that's going to get you in the door to a role. And that's why I say never ditch contingency completely. Like, it shouldn't just, you should have some sort of contingency stuff going on, because your goal as a recruiter is to get as much inventory of the best candidates you could possibly get in any particular role. And you're not going to place 7 candidates at one role. It's just not possible. So if you're doing all that work and you're actually going out and getting like really solid candidates, you need to get that inventory out to the market as fast as possible, ahead of your competition, and capitalize on that work. Because why not? Right? So that's where contingency plays a role, right? So you can now do MPC marketing all day, but that's just an entry point. And when you do it that way and you look at it that perspective, you now don't care if it's a 20% agreement. What you care about is, hey, I want to make money on this work, right? Because that's not your main objective. Your main objective, the thing that you're selling against, the thing that you're selling to, is the problem, I should say, the outcome of your ideal client, right? You're selling to the outcome of what this means to have a great sales organization. If you have a great sales organization, you're going to have a 30% uptick in revenue, right? And I can prove it because of all these case studies that I did. And we do that through this program of understanding the foundational part of what your problem is, or why this is not working currently. We then go and identify the gap that you have on your talent team. We then find those people, we source them in our very unique way. By this, we put them through these unique processes, or we attract them in this very unique way. And then we close them in this very unique way, and we onboard them in this very unique way, right? So it's like, you don't have to have all those things be unique, but you should have at least one of those things be unique at the very minimum. And that's the thing you're selling to, right? That's the gap that you're selling against.
So let me just see if I'm following you. So let's say I'm my target market is manufacturing, okay, and I put together a program or an offer, as you're calling it a program, to solve their challenge of filling skilled labor positions quickly. And my uniqueness is employer branding. So I can start with my program is I'm going to audit your employer brand. Then I can charge you for employer branding overhaul as a part of the service. And then, oh, by the way, when that's all done, I can actually help you fill these positions. Am I picking
while
up
all that's going on, while all that's happening, and because that's a part of what I believe to be true, I'm going to also be placing people for you.
Got it. Yep. So you're adding more value than just I'm placing people for you. That's what you're saying is like, hey, I'm going to come in and I'm audit. That might be my hook to get in the door with you. I see these challenges in your website and the way you guys are showing up.
You might have an ebook. You might have something that like lines really well. You might have a course. You might have a program, a coaching thing, or whatever it might be, right? You might have this thing that gets them to say, yes, I'm raising my hand. I see this as a problem and it's definitely an issue. My manufacturing team is short of people. And it's not that I want to hire people, because they would much rather put a robot in play.
Right.
Would much rather do that. It's not that I want to hire people. I just want to get this problem solved, which is I'm having a manufacturing issue. I'm trying to sell this product. I need to make revenue. And if we don't have these products ready to go, I'm not going to make revenue. I'm not going to increase my company's success. Right. So, or my manufacturing costs are too high. Working in California, I have my manufacturing company in California, or my manufacturing facility in California. So we're opening up a facility in the Midwest. And now we're opening up a facility because it's like lower cost labor. People aren't $20 minimum wage. We need to increase this better. Great. we help you solve that problem when you're trying to migrate from California to another lower cost state to have this better. So now that's a margin issue.
Yep.
Right. So you're talking to margin. So that's the stuff that you want to build.
I love it. I love it. We got a couple more minutes here. And so I think one of the things that would be helpful, because you've kind of hinted around it, but if you could, quickly, like, could you share a success story? Like what is okay, like this all sounds really good, but like we talked about early on, we're here to make money. So what is a success story that we can get into right here?
I love it. I love success stories. I have plenty of them. Okay. So, I mean, Justin Wade, great guy. He was able to build out a fractional offering for more, I mean, it's not just him, right? So a fractional or fractional recruiting offering specifically for like the tech industry. And he's crushing it right now. Most people in tech can't even pick up a lead, and he's got $50,000 in monthly current revenue. He's just dominating. Companies are literally signing up to Justin, and I'm probably giving away too much. Justin, if I am, punch me, and I'll tell Donnie to take this out in the YouTube. But like, I mean, he's literally signing clients that are like, hey, like, we know there's going to be a push in the next 6 months, and we just need to make sure that you're there. Not even like I got roles, like, and that's insane to me. I love that. I freaking love that. So that's one. Our good friend Adrian, who's in our program, is in the aviation space. He places pilots. Originally, he was like, I didn't know if I wanted to go this route. I was doing accounting because people were telling me that's the way to go, and I needed to make marketing. But my passion, I love, is pilots and aviation. Cool, Adrian. Like, and he's like, oh, by the way, I'm also a pilot. I was like, why didn't you lead with that, Adrian? Like, you're a pilot. You worked in GovCon, right? As like a drone pilot. You have a very interesting story. And you have a very interesting perspective. You know the market very well. So it's productized based on that, right? Productized towards that. And now he's about to, this started, we haven't even, and what's crazy about it, I love Adrian for this. We haven't even gone through our new program, Rec to Revenue, with him yet, but I just kind of gave him like the little synopsis of it, what I'm giving you guys right now. And he just ran with it. He's like, I'm going to just go and do it. And like, he's already like 10 steps ahead of the rest of the cohort, and they haven't even started yet. And he's about to sign his first monthly retainer. Right. Yeah. And we're about to line up his first $5,500 in monthly recurring revenue. And like, I'm super excited about that. Right. He just got the email today.
These two specific guys, you don't need to go. I don't want to share too much of their stuff, but Thomas asked earlier, like, typically what are people billing on their monthly? Like, is it just depends,
it's like, look, you're basing on the value of the outcome. So if you're going to focus on revenue, for example, there's a good rule on pricing that I like, is like, if you're going to base it on revenue, it should be 1/10 of the cost of revenue that they could expect, right? So if you're like, hey, we're going to bring up the sales team, and our average, sales team that we bring in usually brings in over $300,000 in what is it? In revenue in 6 months or something like that, right? You might want to just charge 30 grand for just that thing, that part of what you do. And you can do that for over 12 months and say, hey, here's my payment plan for that. Or you can say, hey, it's all up front, right? It just depends. And at the end of the day, it's like, the whole idea isn't necessarily to always charge for every one of these stages or whatever it might be. It's just to be like, oh, you're not charging for that kind of thing. Or like, that's the idea, is the person should feel like they're getting a deal no matter what it is. Like, and that's the cool thing about it, is like, it's not a negotiation tactic at that point. It's not like I got to lower my price to get you on board. It should feel like, damn, it only costs that much. Like, if you think about it in that, like, and I think that's the point of like even contingency and even 20-30% agreements, is that it doesn't feel right to a lot of companies, especially millennials right now, because that's such a variable that it's like it's too focused on this like particular piece. So you're gonna charge me 20% of a $200,000 salary, and it's just somebody who's gonna like come in and help operationally. Like that's the way they're thinking about it. When
Right.
you bring it into perspective of, hey, I'm gonna charge you 20% of $200,000, or I'm gonna charge you $40,000 for this candidate because he's gonna bring in $400,000 in revenue, changes up the perspective a little bit. It's like, it's an investment. It makes
Right.
sense. So that's what it is.
Love it. Love it. As we wrap up here, ladies and gentlemen, please drop any comments. Let's give Will a little love for all this knowledge that he's dropped. Will, I appreciate you coming here with the energy first and all the insight. Go tap those buttons. Let us know that you love it. What's the next step for people? Like if they want to learn more of this in detail, you mentioned, your program, you mentioned a group. How can people get engaged with Will?
Yeah. So first and foremost, sign up to the newsletter. I talk about all this stuff. I talk about tech. I talk about tools. I talk about plays and stuff like that. That's coming up this year. I'm really excited about it. We're going to be dropping our YouTube channel pretty soon, which will kind of like line up into our podcast. And we're officially, and I've been saying this for about 2 months now, but it's actually happening. We are opening up our community to the public. And that is going to be really awesome. That's Boom Lab. So people who are signed up to our newsletter will get automatic access to that. And that's pretty much free. It's just like for a resource for people to jump in, talk, see what we're talking about in our newsletter, just line it up properly and, ask questions, do all that stuff and engage with me personally. But for our cohort, the Rec to Revenue program, that is gonna be nuts. We have our first launch officially coming out February 3rd. And I am beyond excited about it. It's the best thing I put out. I have my precision prospecting course. That's pretty much free. I'm going to probably change that up pretty soon, or I'm just going to give a free portion of it. But precision prospecting is our course. It's like, hey, how do you do basic MPC marketing? Like simple. And then Rec to Revenue is really about productizing and programming your business, systematizing it in a way that you can actually make money off of the services you provide, and make it easier for you to actually bill. Because if I can get someone to bill $1,500 with me for just a quick, 2-hour consultation, right? It's more likely they're going to line up for my retainer option, right?
Right.
So that's our program. That starts February 3rd. We've got 10 people in each program. And if you're interested in joining in, the first class is pretty much already booked up. We have one spot left, which is going to be probably closed on Friday. And then our next program is going to start later in February. Got to figure out what that's going to be. And then it's a 12-month program, essentially, like helping you get this whole product up. So it's pretty fun.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you know where to find Will. You can also find him here on LinkedIn if you just click on this page if you're watching us live. You'll be able to see his profile. But check out Will McGee. Check out Recruiting with Dynamite. Sign up for the newsletter. And if you're feeling eager, check out his program. I know cash flow is a challenge for most recruiters, and this sounds like it's a big solve there for you. So, Will, thank you, man. Appreciate you. I know we had a great conversation a couple weeks ago over the phone, and we're able to get this podcast on the schedule really good. Thank you for sharing value to my specific community, to our recruiting community, and for all the things you do, man. Appreciate you. And everyone else, we'll see you next week live here again on Wednesday for another show. I have no idea what I'm going to talk about, what it's going to be about, but we'll be here. That's what we did. So we'll see you then. Thanks, Will.
Thank you. Have a great one.